Today we will understand what is the right parameter to evaluate investment returns. Is it the absolute return? Is it the CAGR? Or is it the XIRR? So to better understand this topic, we have divided this segment into two parts. So the first one being, in the short term and in the long term, which is the right parameter for us to use. So if you look at the first table, there is an initial investment of about 100 rupees on 16th September 2024. And after 1 month, that is on 16th October, there is a top up of 5 rupees. And after 2 months, that is in November 2024, the current value stands at 120 rupees. So for this scenario, the absolute gain stands at 14 rupees and the XIRR stands at 126% and the CAGR at 122%. So as you can see in the shorter time frame, the XIRR and the CAGR is giving misleading numbers. It is unusually high because the time frame is lower. And if you look at the second table, the initial investment is in September 2024 and there's a top up of 5 rupees after 1 year, and we are looking at the current value of 2 years, that is in September 2026, which stands at 140 rupees. So in this scenario, if you look at the absolute gain, it is standing at 33%, whereas the XIRR and the CAGR looks much normalized at 16% and 15%. So the conclusion over here is, for a shorter period of time, it is not right to use XIRR or CAGR to evaluate the investment returns. But if it is a longer period of time, XIRR or CAGR is a much better parameter to use than absolute gain to evaluate the investment returns. And for the shorter period of time, absolute returns should be used to evaluate the returns. Come to the conclusion that for a shorter time frame, that is for a period less than 1 year, we should check the absolute gain and not the XIRR or the CAGR. So coming to the second part, if the time frame is more than 1 year, what parameter should we look at? Is it the XIRR or is it the CAGR? So if you look at table 1, table 1 shows the investment wise returns and table 2 shows the portfolio returns. So if you see table 1, in 2020 we had invested 100 rupees and the current value for that particular 100 rupees stands at 200. And 2021 we invested another 100 rupees and the value for that as on today stands at 150. And in 2022 we invested 200 and that stands at 200, for example. So if you see in this, ignoring the absolute returns for once, so the CAGR and the XIRR remains the same at 15% for 2020, 11% for 2021 and 0% of course because there is no return for 2022. So this is the CAGR and XIRR are the same in table 1 because there is no impact of the cash flows. So if we look at table 2, the total investment is 400 rupees, that is 100 in 2020, 100 in 2021 and 200 in 2022. That is a total of 400 rupees. And the current value of all these investments stands at 550 rupees. If you look at the absolute return, it is at 38%. But here, XIRR is more at 9% than the CAGR. So what CAGR does is, it assumes that the entire 400 rupees was invested at the beginning of the investment period. That is in 2020, the entire 400 rupees was invested and that is standing at 550 rupees as on today, and it calculates the CAGR basis on that. But there is a flaw in this because the entire 400 rupees was not invested back in 2020. Only 100 rupees was invested and then another 100 in 21, another 200 in 2022. So this is where XIRR comes into picture. So XIRR considers this impact of cash flows. It does not assume that the entire 400 rupees was invested in the beginning of the period. As a result, in this particular example, XIRR is a little higher than CAGR because it is considering the impact of cash flows. So the conclusion over here is XIRR is a better parameter to look at than CAGR because it is not correct to assume that the entire investment was made at the beginning of the investment period. So XIRR negates that flaw and assumes the impact of the cash flows. So in the shorter period of time, absolute return is the good parameter to look at, and if it is a longer period of time, that is more than 1 year, XIRR is the correct parameter to look at. Thank you.